This morning, we are shining a spotlight on the case of a wrongfully convicted man who is now thankfully enjoying freedom and fighting for compensation for his time behind bars. Joey Watkins was exonerated last week after spending 23 years in prison. He was convicted of killing Isaac Dawkins in Northwest Georgia back in 2001 when he was just 20 years old. Prosecutors said that Watkins shot Dawkins, who was driving at the time. Now, Joey Watkins always maintained his innocence, and the Georgia Innocence Project believed him, and they fought for years for him. His attorneys pointed to juror and prosecutorial misconduct, saying that key evidence was withheld from the defense. I am so pleased to welcome here in the studio with me newly freed Joey Watkins and his attorney, Noah Pines, who is a wonderful friend to Court TV. Joey, I heard that you cried like a baby when you got the news. Take us back to that moment and what it felt like for you, please.
Actually, I was at work with my dad, and my dad was sitting across from me, and Noah called me and he said, Joey, and I said, yeah. He said, hold on a second, I'm gonna get the other attorneys online. I thought something was wrong. I was like, oh no, here we go again. And so when he keyed in everybody else, it was kind of, I knew it was something big. And my other attorney, one of my other attorneys from the Innocence Project, Claire Gilbert, she was like, she started reading this stuff to me, and I was like, what does all this mean? I don't know what this means. And Noah said, Joey, you're free. It's finished. And this means that your case is dismissed. And I actually had, we own a car business, used car business, and I had a customer sitting in front of me, and I started crying. And my dad jumped up, and they were like, what's wrong, what's wrong? And I walked outside, and I was just overwhelmed, you know. I was like, thank God. So
the state dropped the case.
Yeah.
Because there was the chance of retrial. So at this point, there was worry, even though you were out, there was the chance that the state could refile. You could go through that all over again. But you got what's called a null pros. And I said to him off camera, I'm going to call him null pros Noah.
I'll take it.
Right?
Yeah, we were actually preparing for trial. Trial was going to be in November. We had a bunch of motions that were going to be heard soon. I wanted Claire to be the one to tell Joey, just because Claire has been with Joey for over 10 years. Claire's the one who took, Joey's case was, he lost his appeal, he lost his habeas, he had no more options in Georgia, and Claire's the one who took his case to the Undisclosed podcast, who brought attention to it, who then was able to help get him this kind of an extraordinary motion for new trial. But Claire was taking way too long, and she starts reading all this stuff, and I'm like, Claire, Joey, your case is dismissed, you know, because, you know, I could just see him like, what is she talking about?
What does this mean?
Exactly.
Right. Well, and what did it feel like when you heard that you were finally free?
It just, so many emotions, you know. For so long, it's been a cloud over my head. Even after, you know, I got bond, I had an ankle monitor on, and I kind of consumed myself in work, and I didn't want to, you know, do anything wrong. You know, I didn't want to spit on the sidewalk, so to speak. So when Noah told me that, I was just, I don't even know how to describe it. You know, words can't describe what I felt at that moment.
Right.
So it was just grateful.
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's probably hard to even just put it into words. And I keep thinking back to when this all began. Joey, I'm sure you had to have told many people you didn't do this. I'm assuming you told police, you've said it and said it again. What was it like not being believed?
You know, for the first part of my incarceration, I was bitter, I was angry on the inside, and I would tell people, you know, I would try to reach out to everybody, and, you know, that would listen to me, and I'd be like, listen, I didn't do this. And everybody was like, yeah, nobody does it, you know, nobody does it. And
it's like Shawshank Redemption, right?
Yeah,
yeah, everybody's innocent, man.
Everybody's innocent, and you know, nobody would listen to me. And then, you know, finally, Claire, you know, Claire came in, and she came to see me after years of writing the Innocence Project and trying to get help. And in the beginning, Claire was like, Joey, I want to believe you, but this is like a movie. I don't, you know. She's like, let me investigate, and I'll come back and see you. And so she investigated, and she came back, and Claire actually cried and gave me a hug. She said, I'm so sorry. She said, we're going to fight for you.
And she sure did.
She did.
And I understand that some of what was uncovered was cell phone evidence that the state had from the outset that showed you were nowhere near this homicide. But that wasn't put into the trial. Noah, why not?
Well, I mean, there was some of the cell phone evidence, but, you know, this is 20 years ago, and so you know, it's more sophisticated now. A lot of that came out during the habeas, you know, which is a second really appeal to try to show that he didn't get a fair trial, but it was just ignored. But, you know, worse than the cell phone evidence is one of the jurors decided, you know, Joey's phone was pinging at point A and the murder happened at point B, and she went and said, well, she drove it on like a Sunday from point A to point B, and then told the other jurors, well, it can be done in this amount of time. Well, the problem is she didn't pick the right point A and the right point B. She didn't drive the right route, and it was on a Sunday morning. So in essence, she went and told the jury, you know, hey, this can be done, which you can't do. That's jury
totally
tampering.
Against the law, right?
Yeah, I know you talked about jury tampering and Murdoch with, you know, bias and whatever, but this is, in essence, what a witness coming into the jury room and unsworn, uncross-examined, telling the jury that it can be done. Yeah.
Improper. And judges instruct against that. They're told not to do your own research, not to try to investigate.
Yeah.
You're only to judge a case on the facts. So that's what you mean by juror misconduct and then the prosecutorial misconduct. Did they withhold some of those cell phone records?
So the prosecutorial misconduct that was talked about in his habeas was related to what's called a similar transaction, or 404B now. So it was kind of tangential to his case, but what really the Supreme Court of Georgia focused on in upholding the habeas was this juror misconduct.
Okay, so that was really
that was the big issue.
My gosh.
It's a super complicated legal case, but that really is what got Joey his new trial when there was no hope. And so how I got involved was one of the attorneys, Ben Goldberg, who was donating his time to the Innocence Project. I saw him up in Walker County doing the habeas, and I listened to Joey's podcast, and I said, you know, oh, you're here on Joey? He said, yeah. And I said, if you get him a new trial, I'll try the case with you for free. And it was the first time I met Joey, and I forget how many months later, Ben called me up. He goes, were you serious? And I said, yep. He goes, all right, well, you're in, because we're getting him a new trial.
Wow. And look what happened. You got him a null pros. You got him better than a new trial. That's like getting a bar of gold in the courthouse.
Every
Sandy,
criminal
when you get
defense
the
lawyer's like, my
paper.
two favorite words are not guilty, not mine. Mine are null pros.
Null pros, Noah Pines. That is going to be your nickname. Wow, it's so impressive. And Joey, when I think of these issues, we have two big issues going on. Who do you hold most responsible for the wrongful conviction?
You know, I mean, in the beginning, I think, I do believe the DA knew, you know, after she investigated, she had to know. I mean, the detectives, you know, I think they kind of had tunnel vision, and, you know, they knew what they were doing. I mean, that's kind of plain and simple, but
there's major confirmation bias going on up there by the detective who took over the case, who recently passed away. And then, you know, what's even crazier, they charged another person with the same murder, and he went to trial severed, and he was found not guilty.
What?
Right.
So he was free the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
And Joey was in prison, and it was just it was a small town, Julie. You know, you had a rogue police officer.
Right.
You had a lot of, you know, hearsay. You had a bunch of teenagers talking.
Absolutely.
And that really just created this sort of perfect storm of Joey's wrongful conviction.
Right. You know, I know one of our producers is from Rome and remembers your case when she was growing up, and she said, you know, the public sentiment was a lot of sorrow for you. There were many people who felt very badly that you were going away with this because there was so much uncertainty among folks in the public who felt terrible, and they felt like they weren't so sure that police had gotten the right person. How was the reception going back to Rome, now being exonerated?
Going back was completely different than the beginning. I had, jailers when I came back, they were like, we're so glad that this is happening. And it was kind of it was just completely different. They were rooting for me, and, and I'm grateful, as a whole, my community, I think everybody, they accept me and everybody sees the truth now. So I'm grateful for that. And, I've had people that, come up to me and I have no clue who they are, and they're like, congratulations, we're so grateful that you're home. And, it's unbelievable, sometimes it's not real. It doesn't seem real.
You're pinching yourself, huh?
Yeah. It's only been like a week.
Thank goodness it is real, and you are free. And so, two big things I need to tackle before we let you go. So, compensation. I understand this is a fight with the state. Noah, is there any way he can get some money from the state for the wrongful imprisonment?
Yeah, I mean, there's no automatic compensation, so what would have to happen is the legislature would have to pass a special, bill in order to compensate him, and that's something that the team is considering, taking down there to see if we can get him some compensation for the time that he spent in prison.
Right. I sure hope you can.
Yeah.
And Joey Watkins, what is next for you?
I just want to finish life strong. I just want to live. I want to travel, and just have a family, be normal for a change.
Right.
Be normal.
Right.
That's my thing.
Oh, well, and thank goodness you're still young and you have so much life left ahead of you. I would love to have you back on the show, maybe 6 months from now, maybe a year from now, see what you're up to. You have a remarkable story to tell, and you are an inspiration to a lot of people who may be in your position right now, who may hope that somebody will believe them and somebody will fight for them to help them be free like you. And Joey, thank you.
He's an inspiration to lawyers, criminal defense lawyers like me, too.
Yes.
I mean, these are the cases that really, keep us going, Julie. To know that, I could be a small part of this is really important to me.
It's got to feel really good.
Yeah.
I know. I want to cry, too. I heard that you cried. No, you
yeah, I was crying.
It's just a love fest. Everybody's crying. I know. I
should have taped the call.
I'm a little misty-eyed myself.
Up.
I know. And every good wish.
If it wasn't for the Noahs and the Innocence projects, people like me would not have hope. And I'm grateful for that, honestly.
Do you know that you're giving a lot of other people hope, too?
I try. That's my message now. If I can help other men in my situation, that's none of this was in vain. And so.
Right. And maybe that's a purpose and a mission going forward as you're living your best life. Every good wish to you, Joey Watkins. Thank you.
Thank you
for coming on Opening Statements today. And Noah, thank you as well.